She pounded on my door like she owned the whole street, yelling, "Open up! The cops are already on their way!" I had just moved in 2 days ago. No HOA, no rules, just a quiet place for me, my wife, and our daughter. But this woman, Karen, with a stiff haircut and a folder full of fake authority, stood on my porch screaming like I stole her entire neighborhood. When I opened the door, she shoved a paper in my face. "Violation notice! You can't park that truck here! It lowers property value!" I looked at her calm, trying not to laugh. This isn't an HOA community. She smirked like she knew something I didn't. "It is now! We voted yesterday!" Before I could answer, she snapped her fingers toward the street. A police car stopped right in front of my house. 2 officers stepped out, hands on their belts like they were ready for a showdown. Karen shouted, "Arrest him! He threatened me!" I stood there shocked because I hadn't even touched her. One of the cops walked up and said, "Sir, we got a call about aggressive behavior." My heart dropped, not because I was scared for myself, but because my daughter was watching from the window with wide eyes. Karen kept pushing her lies like she practiced them in the mirror every night. He screamed at me. He refused orders from the HOA. She made it sound like I attacked her. I took a slow breath and said, "Officer, everything she said is a lie." Karen laughed and said loudly, "Save it! He thinks rules don't apply to him." For a second, I actually felt cornered. The cops were believing her. They kept glancing at each other like they were ready to grab me. But I stayed calm, because I knew something she didn't. My wife was inside the house, and she wasn't just any woman. She was a federal officer who trained crisis teams, and she heard every word. The moment Karen yelled, "Take him in!" a voice came from behind me, firm, controlled, and cold enough to slice through the air. "Nobody is taking my husband anywhere." My wife stepped out in full uniform. The cops froze mid-breath. Karen's mouth fell open so wide she forgot how to blink. My wife stared straight at them and said, "You want to explain why you're trying to arrest a man on his own property without evidence?" And that's when everything shifted.
The officers stiffened the moment they saw her badge. One of them actually stepped back, like he suddenly realized he'd wandered into the wrong house. Karen, meanwhile, tried to recover fast. Officer, this is a community violation and he refused to cooperate. I was just enforcing HOA protocol." My wife looked her up and down with the kind of stare that makes grown men rethink life. "Protocol? Show me your legal documents." Karen lifted her chin and pushed the fake notice toward her. My wife didn't even touch it. "This isn't a lawful form, and this property isn't part of any HOA." The cops exchanged a look. They already knew she was right. Karen panicked and pointed at me again. "Well, he still threatened me." My wife stepped forward, her voice steady. "Did you witness any threat?" The officers shook their heads. "Did she show signs of distress?" Again, no. Karen tried one last swing. "He parked that truck illegally. It's blocking our emergency lane." My wife glanced at my truck sitting perfectly in my driveway. She raised an eyebrow. "Emergency lane? Where?" Karen waved randomly toward the street like she hoped a lane would magically appear. It's there. You just can't see it without the HOA map." That's when my wife asked the line that sent chills down my spine. "Ma'am, are you impersonating an authority?" Karen's face turned white. The officers instantly shifted their attention to her. She tried to laugh it off. No, this is just neighborhood structure." But the more she talked, the deeper she dug her grave. One officer asked, "Do you have any legal paperwork showing you're allowed to issue citations?" Karen stalled. "It's, being processed." The second cop sighed. "Ma'am, you called us for a false report. That's a crime." Karen's eyes darted everywhere, desperate for a way out. Then she whispered something I didn't expect. "He can't live here. He doesn't belong here." My wife stepped between us so fast Karen flinched. "Say that again," she said quietly. Karen froze.
For the first time, she looked scared. Just when it felt like Karen might crumble, a voice crackled through one of the officer's radios. He listened, glanced at Karen, then at us, and his expression changed completely. "You need to hear this." And whatever he heard, it was the first twist I didn't see coming.
The officer lowered his radio slowly, eyes locked on Karen as if he had just received something unbelievable. "Ma'am," he said carefully, "dispatch checked your name. You've reported 9 people this month for HOA violations, but there is no HOA registered anywhere around here." Karen's lips trembled. "They're lying. Someone messed up the paperwork." The officer shook his head. "This isn't a paperwork issue. They also flagged your number for multiple false emergencies." Karen opened her mouth, but this time no noise came out. She looked like someone had unplugged her voice. My wife folded her arms, watching her like a hawk. "You've been running a fake HOA?" she said quietly. "Harassing people, issuing illegal notices, threatening families." Karen stumbled backwards, shaking her head. No, you don't understand. I'm keeping order. This neighborhood is going downhill because of people like him." She jabbed her finger toward me again, desperate, trembling. But it didn't matter anymore. The cops weren't listening to her, and she felt it. Then Karen snapped. Her voice cracked as she yelled, "He bought the wrong house! That land was supposed to be mine!" I stepped forward, confused. "What?" She took a shaky breath, eyes wild. "The developer promised me this plot years ago. I was supposed to be the head of the HOA, but they sold it to you, so I'm taking it back." My wife gave a slow, deadly smile. "You mean you've been terrorizing the entire street because you didn't get a house?" Karen didn't answer. She didn't need to. The officers moved in, but before they could say anything, Karen spun toward her car like she was ready to run. I thought the moment was over until something unexpected happened. She grabbed a folder from her back seat and waved it in the air. "I have proof! I have everything here!" She tried to open it, but paper slipped out and scattered across the street. One of the sheets stopped right at my wife's boot. My wife bent down, picked it up, and her expression changed instantly. Not angry, not annoyed, just stunned. "You need to see this," she said, handing it to me. The paper wasn't about HOA rules. It wasn't a violation notice. It wasn't even about property. It was my name, tied to a file I thought no one in this neighborhood would ever uncover. And just like that, the second twist hit. This woman knew something about my past she should have never had access to. My hands tightened around the paper as I read it. It wasn't some HOA form. It was an old, sealed, federal deployment record. My record, something only certain agencies could access. I felt my stomach drop. My wife's eyes were already on me, searching my face, quietly asking how this woman got something even most cops weren't allowed to see. Karen, shaking and desperate, pointed at me like she had exposed a monster. "See, I knew it. He's not who he says he is. I checked everything. I know what he really did." The officers looked confused. My wife stepped beside me, her voice steady but colder than before. "How did you get this file?" Karen's laugh was broken, almost unhinged. "Because I needed leverage. Because if I couldn't stop him the normal way, I'd stop him with truth. People deserve to know who they're living next to." She took a step back, her hands trembling. "He was in black ops, hidden ops. He has clearance normal soldiers never get. He could be dangerous." The officers turned to me slowly, unsure what to believe. I took a breath, calm but heavy. "I served," I said plainly. "I did things I don't talk about. But I came here to give my family peace, not to fight people who play pretend police." My wife lifted her chin. "His file is classified for a reason," she said sharply. "You accessing it, that's a federal crime." Karen blinked like she didn't understand. But I just searched everything. I wanted control of this neighborhood." My wife stepped forward. "You hacked into a restricted database. You impersonated authority. You filed false reports, and you targeted a veteran and his family." She looked at the officers. "She's done." The officers approached Karen as she backed away, trying to deny everything. "Wait, you don't get it. I was supposed to be in charge. They listened to me. They always listened to me."
But nobody was listening now. The officers placed her in cuffs while she screamed, "This is my neighborhood!" My daughter quietly opened the front door behind us, holding her toy and whispering, "Daddy, is she gone?" I knelt, hugged her, and rested my forehead against hers. Yeah, nobody's bothering us anymore. My wife turned to me with a small smile. "Are you okay?" I nodded. I didn't come home from those missions to be bullied on my own land. One of the officers paused before leaving. "Sir, thank you for your service, and we're sorry you had to deal with this." My wife slipped her arm through mine. The street finally quieted. Karen was driven away, still shouting promises nobody cared about anymore. As the last patrol car rolled off, I looked at my home, our home, and felt something settled in my chest. Peace. Real peace. I whispered to myself, I fought for freedom, not to hand it over to someone playing HOA Queen. And for the first time since we moved in, it really felt like we were safe.